Hello and a warm welcome to Federal special program Capital Beat. After 9 years of silence, businessman Vijay Mallya, who's been residing in United Kingdom since 2016, has finally spoken out in a podcast interview. Now, this was a 4 hours long interview, and he addressed the accusations against him, gave an explanation for the decision why he was staying away from India. He has defended himself against being called a chore in the course of an interview with businessman Raj Shamani. Now, in addition, he also discussed his legal struggles, the collapse of Kingfisher Airlines, and whether he would think about returning to the nation. Now, he made a number of revelations. He denies basically the theft allegations against him. He said that he may be called a fugitive for staying away from India, but rejected being labeled a thief. Then he blames the financial crisis of 2008, that was the primary cause of Kingfisher Airlines collapse. And he said that before the crisis struck and had an impact on the whole economy, the airline was doing well. And he also said that he had plans to reduce the airline size, but added that officials and bankers had advised him not to scale down the airline. Then, on returning to India, he stated that if he were guaranteed a fair trial and appropriate treatment, he would think seriously about coming back to India. And then he cited a UK court decision that declared Indian prison conditions to be in violation of the human rights regulations. And he went on to say that he cannot risk returning until those issues are resolved. And then also the social media reaction. He said that legacy media always tries and portrays a one sided picture. And whatever he has said in the podcast, but the legal battle continues. So, how would you read this podcast of Vijay Mallya? Do we see him as a wrongdoer or as someone who's been wronged by the policies and the decision making of the then government? Joining me now is our business editor of the Federal, Giri Prakash. Thank you so much for joining, Giri. And my first question to you is that why did Vijay Mallya chose to speak to this podcaster, and that to a 4 hours long interview? People are asking that was it staged, was it planned, was it a deliberate exercise to speak on these issues on a particular occasion, especially when RCB has bagged a big victory after so many years?
Yeah, that could have been one of the reasons. And he's the one who bought RCB, and he believes that it is his, and he should be the one who should be showcased now that RCB has won the IPL Cup after 17 long years. And thank you, Neelu, for inviting me for this discussion. I must also say that this is very unusual of Dr. Mallya to have a 4-hour long discussion. And he covers several aspects of it. Some of them are also there are quite a few which are repeats. And what is quite surprising is that he gives an interview to a social media influencer rather than a journalist who has been tracking the industry for a long time, tracking Mallya for a long time. So obviously, it's pretty clear that there are certain questions which could have been asked, which only a business journalist who has been tracking the industry for a long time can actually, because of the fact that he has information.
So are you saying what he said was very, very selective, and the person who asked him those questions also had tried to cover up a lot of things on the part of Vijay Mallya?
I won't say that. I do agree it was curated kind of interview. There are many things which Raj Shamani may not have known, but the fact is that it took him 9 long years. Is a bit of a surprise. All that he said, defended himself in the interview. He could have done it much earlier. Soon after he went to London and the kind of court cases that were there was nobody preventing him from talking about it. Though those issues were fresh at that time, nothing much had moved, and he would have had a better, the kind of things, the kind of cases that were there, the kind of explanations that he gave now. He could have done that much earlier, and it would have, to some extent, sorted out any kind of confusion.
But he said a lot of things about the then UPA government, that he was ready to downsize his Kingfisher Airlines. But it was Pranab Mukherjee who was the finance minister then. He stopped him from doing so. And he said that he would get all the support and the help from the banks. And that's how it all started. So, and now, of course, Pranab Mukherjee is not alive. There is no ways or means by which he can come and clarify this issue. So, did he just say it for the heck of saying it? Or did something actually on this line really happen? And you've been covering business for a long while. But do you think that, are you aware of any such meeting of Pranab Mukherjee and Vijay Mallya at that time?
No, I'm not aware of those meetings. These meet, and it is what he claims. He also claims to have met Arun Jaitley. He also claims to have met Pranab Mukherjee. Both of them have passed, so we really can't find out whether that such a meeting existed. But beyond that, the kind of claims that he made, saying that he wanted to downsize, there are two aspects to it, and I'll refer to that. I've written a book on Mallya, so I'll read it out from that. He talks about how the unable to sustain large-scale operations because of its continued losses, the airline announced that it had deferred deliveries of 32 A320 family aircraft by 2 years to 2010-2012. Right? Remember, he met Pranab Mukherjee in 2008, according to him, right? He met him in 2008. And if he met him in 2008 and 2 years later he downsized it by not going ahead and inducting those aircraft, that's around 32 aircraft. 32 is quite a large number, which means he did start downsizing. And in the interview, he said that one of the mistakes that I committed was to go ahead and talk to Pranab Mukherjee, and if I had not done so, and if I had downsized, the airline would still be alive. The fact is, he did downsize. He did defer taking on 32 aircraft.
But what is the
Just two
real
years
truth?
later.
Yes, no, but what is the real truth behind Vijay Mallya's fleeing to United Kingdom? He says that he informed Arun Jaitley. Then he was also quoting in the interview, because I saw certain excerpts where he's saying that, oh, a Congress MP was aware of this meeting I had with Arun Jaitley, and they even called it out at that point of time. And he there were no legal orders to stop him. He went on his own. All these revelations he makes in this podcast. What is really the truth? Did he inform Arun Jaitley and then he flew to United Kingdom? But why this legal hassle which he's now facing, and he's now seen as a fugitive?
So let's again go back to the facts, and these facts are like this, and I'll read this out to you. The uh, he talks about the fact that he didn't run away and he left India illegally. But let us reconstruct what exactly happened at that time. He flew to London on March 2, 2016, using his diplomatic passport, because he was at that time member of parliament. And but he did so a day after banks moved the Supreme Court to stop him from going abroad. At that time, the CBI had issued a lookout circular but downgraded it to a report departure notice, an error CBI admitted later. So legally, he did not abscond, but he chose to exile over answering the summons. This is not an illegal flight, but it's a premeditated evasion. You see, he also made it very clear during the soon after he left, he issued a press statement, and I remember writing about it. He said very clearly that he keeps going abroad often, and he keeps coming back to India quite often as well. So if there are any cases against him, he will come back to India. He will fight those cases, and he is a law-abiding citizen. However, either a few months later or a month later, he sent out another press statement saying that he will not come back to India because of the fact that he fears that he'll be arrested and fears that he will get harassed and stuff like that. So all along, whatever that he has been saying, there are statements, there are press statements out there which clearly say that he was not very sure about returning to India.
Some Congress leaders have today spoken about the fact that it was Arun Jaitley who was in the know of it. Arun Jaitley allowed him to flee from India. What is the kind of impact of this podcast now on politics between BJP and Congress? Now that UPA is also in the dock, when he speaks about Pranab Mukherjee, that the policies were such. Then he says that foreign direct investment was not allowed. He had already spoken to Etihad Airways and they were ready to invest. So all those revelations now coming in, they bring both UPA and the BJP government at that time, in the dock. So what is the kind of impact you really feel that this podcast could have, or you feel that it's going to be immaterial or whatever he has spoken? He's done his own PR exercise. Is that so?
Well, let us look at what can come out of the claims and counterclaims made by the political parties and Dr. Mallya. At the end of the day, he's not coming back.
But he also mentions that yes, if conditions are conducive, then he doesn't rule out completely he's returning to India. Or is that just a...
He doesn't have to do all that, catch a flight and come to India. He just has to tell the local Indian High Commission, revoke my passport, I'll come down. That's all there is to it. He doesn't have to make these claims at all. The fact that both these political leaders are no longer there, how does one go about corroborating whatever Dr. Mallya claims? So as simple as that. In fact, the political parties can go ahead and claim whatever that they want to, but it only has a certain amount of, it's not something that will last for a longer time. You say these things because Dr. Mallya's interview is right on there. It's going on right now. It's being replayed several times, so it will be there for some time. And beyond that, I don't see any political capital being made out of this.
What about these claims about Etihad Airways? And he points fingers at the policies at that time, says that foreign direct investment wasn't allowed. But then once he flew away, then 6 months later, they opened it for the foreign direct investment. Now, would you really blame the policies at that time for whatever happened to Vijay Mallya as what he has spoken in the course of his podcast?
We must realize one thing, that the parameters or the norms were not changed after he floated the airline. He knew exactly what the parameters were, what the norms were, what are the rules of the game. Kingfisher Airline was not the only airline flying at that time. There was Jet Airways, there were quite a few other airlines. There was Air Deccan, all these things were there. He knew exactly what he was getting into. And later you start protesting about it, fine, but don't make that as an issue which led to the downfall of the airline. You can't say that. All right. It is all right for industry leaders to go ahead and influence the government, try to change certain rules and regulations so that everybody benefits. It's a norm. Everybody does it. No problem with that. But to use that and say that's the reason why it collapsed, sorry, that's not something that can be seen in good light.
But if you look at the podcast in entirety, he projects himself more as a victim. And at least that he's trying to do, that he is more a victim of the policies which were then pursued by the government. Then he blames the BJP government, he blames the UPA government for whatever has gone wrong. Is he trying to clarify in a way, or the sole motive behind the podcast is to remain relevant just because Royal Challengers Bangalore has won a T20 match?
You see,
because people would be asking
when your business collapses, and you sort of leave the country and you do all these things, it's quite natural that you want to blame everybody, including the weather conditions. No issues with that. But the reality is quite different, isn't it? The fact is that there are other airlines which survived. There were other airlines which merged. There were the rules of the game were similar, same for every player in at that time. They were not complaining, right? There was a fundamental flaw as far as Kingfisher Airlines is concerned. And a business where the margins are very high, you use the same business practice for another industry. What happens is that it's just not it doesn't get into a right fit kind of thing. The airline industry, the margins are very, very less, and you get those profits after 8 to 10 years. You get a margin of around 2 to 3%. Look at Indigo Airlines. It took them a long time to become a profitable airline, right? And then in the liquor industry, the fundamentals are very, very different. The kind of margin that you have are very high. Stakes are also high, but the margins are also very high. It's all very state controlled. At the same time, margins are very high, and therefore you use the same practice to an airline industry, things can go completely wrong. It is all right to say that we have a complete five-star hotel in the air, but the hospitality sector is very, very different from flying in an airline. The um, the cost pressures are very high. Very few things are under your control, including the fuel which charges your aircraft. Okay, that gets changed all the time, right? And India is the airline sector in India is a very highly taxed industry. In spite of that, you go ahead and enter, and then you run it like a five-star hotel. Sorry, you can't sustain yourself for a long time.
What is the exact amount of the money laundering which he has actually done? Somewhere, he tries to show that it was just 9,000 crore debt. Somewhere it's some 14,000 something. What is the actual amount of money laundering charges against him?
So the way to look at it is he had around 4,500 crore, and then it went up to 6,000 crore, and then there were interests and all that stuff. The As far as money laundering is concerned, as far as round tripping is concerned, these are the charges made by the Enforcement Directorate, CBI, and a few others, and they are yet to be authenticated. But the fact is that there are two components to the money that he owned to the State Bank of India led consortium. One was the principal of, amount, another was the interest, right? So combined, that was around 9,500 crores. He agreed to pay the principal, but what at that time meant was taking a huge haircut for all the banks, and that's something they were not agreeable at that time. And please remember, this happened 10, 12 years ago. Um, the situation was quite different. India was a very different country at that time, and to take such massive haircuts was always a problem for the banks. And they said that I mean, we would rather want the entire money. If you want us to release more money, pay us now. And you should realize, and that this is something that is very important, and that's what business school teaches you. There is only this much of amount of money that gets printed every year, right? Let's assume 100 rupees get printed every year. Out of that, if 10 rupees goes towards giving loans to the corporate sector, and only 5 rupees is returned, that the other 5 rupee, to make good the other 5 rupee, you have to raise the interest cost. And all of us have to bear that interest cost, right? It leads to inflation. It leads to a situation where you get less for the same amount of money, right? So it does damage the economy if the corporates don't pay up. That needs
Yes.
to be kept in mind.
True. But also, during the course of the interview, he's apologized to the employees of Kingfisher who lost their jobs and they still hold resentment. In fact, he responded with an apology and he said that I would say I'm deeply sorry for what happened to them. I would say that I'm deeply sorry that some of them didn't get paid their salaries and I have no excuses to offer. I take full responsibility. And then he further claims that funds meant for employees were blocked. The court had the money. I filed a petition to pay the employees' dues, and the banks and the court rejected it. So again, he's blaming the courts and the banks uh, for a responsibility which was his. So he's again, does he seem to be ducking away the responsibility? And obviously, that question was asked to him about the Kingfisher employees, and he conveniently passes on the buck to the courts and the banks.
You see, one thing is that you take money from the banks, you have to return it. Only then they release next tranche of loan if there's a demand for that. The other thing is, we should also realize at that time, his claim was, my employees do not know how to read the Companies Act. In the Companies Act, if there is a failure of business, the promoter is not responsible for it. That's exactly what he told the employees. Number one. Number two, when he sold United Spirits to Diageo, there was a certain amount of money that was given to him to exit United Spirits. That money was his own, right? Around 40 to 50 million dollars. He could have used that money to pay off all the employees if he was so concerned about them. Why didn't he do it? Why is it that there were employees? I remember about how employees would go to the office in the morning. They had no work. Have on an attendance sheet or the roster, they would sign and go to a nearby beach and wherever in Bombay or wherever, and come back in the evening to tell all the neighbors that he had actually gone to the office. And one fine day, they find the roster missing. I mean, employees were put into a lot of hardship. There were several cases of such things that happened. That money, whatever money that was there, that could have been utilized to pay the employees, but that didn't happen.
The whole podcast in entirety. So, what is the message today which Vijay Mallya has managed to send out, and to whom has he spoken actually through the podcast? Is he what did he speak to the Kingfisher employees? Did he speak to the BJP? Did he speak to the Congress? I mean, obviously, when an interview is given by a fugitive like him, he will always have messages for various pockets. So, has he spoken or conveyed his message to BJP, Congress, and the Kingfisher employees who were wronged by him?
It's a good question, no doubt. The fact is that we actually don't know how it's going to play out as far as the BJP government is concerned, because he does criticize the BJP government in the interview, saying that this government did it and all that stuff. That's one part of it. He doesn't even leave the Congress party as well, which was ruling before this government came. And then, as far as the employees are concerned, it's too late in the day to apologize. I'm very sorry. It should have been done much, much earlier. And as far as the general public is concerned, there's nothing that has come out, anything new about it. He's been talking about it. He's been issuing press statements. His lawyers have parroted the same thing in courts, and we all know about it. But if he's really trying to say something, come out with some kind of a message, or telling the Indian government, please allow me to return to my homeland. And if he's making a fervent plea, perfectly fine. But then if he comes back here, he'll have to face court cases. This is something which Mr. Shamani should have asked him. If you're willing to come back, are you willing to face these court cases? That's something. If he's willing to do that, maybe the government might do so. But then there is an issue about asylum.
Hmm.
The one of the I think the lawyers there said that he had sought asylum in London, and
Oh,
he has to make this very clear. And he could have made that very clear in this podcast whether he had actually sought an asylum. He did not. He was very vague about it. He was not very clear whether he did not say very clearly whether he had sought an asylum. And if he wants to come back, the he should be proactive about it. He should if he has gone ahead and asked for an asylum, he should withdraw that request, and then willing to come back to India on his own, not on his own terms.
absolutely. So we'll have to wait and watch how things unfold. But yes, he's tried to convey messages to BJP, to Congress. He's also spoken to Kingfisher employees. But what is the kind of impact this podcast would have on his prospects? Is he going to return to India? Well, that is not very clear. But yes, he's chosen an opportune moment when RCB won the T20 league match. And he's again come back to take the credit that this is how he chose Virat Kohli. We've not spoken about the cricketing bit, but he did take credit for the fact that he was the one to pick Virat Kohli at that time where he saw a powerhouse in him. Thank you so much, Giri. Thank you very much for joining. Thank you.
Thank you very much.